What's up, everybody? We are back for another Life and Law with Mike and Bill podcast. What's up, Michael?
Hey, Billy. How you doing?
We are very excited today. We have a great show planned. We have a great guest, the one and only Christine Lafferty from Grungo Colarulo. What's up, Christine?
What's up? Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Absolutely. Christine's here to talk about a bunch of stuff, but we're going to talk a lot today about something that happened yesterday that if you didn't hear about it, you're under a rock. The slap heard round the world.
Slap-a-doo. Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk a little bit about the NCAA tournament.
The Peacocks.
From last week, we have some highs and lows to talk about. Mike had a big win at the Elite Eight, or to get into the Elite Eight. And then, unfortunately, that loss. We'll talk about that.
Yep.
We're going to talk about a tragic situation down in Florida where, unfortunately, a young teenage boy falls to his death on a ride at an amusement park. Horrible.
Terrible.
And then Christine's going to come on to talk a little bit about car insurance. Although boring, a lot of family members ask me about what car insurance coverages they should get. They never know which to get, and they usually make the wrong decision because a lot of people just base it off of how much money am I going to save? Bad idea, right, Christine?
Very important information.
And then finally, like we end all of our episodes with a Mike Speaks, and we're going to have a little rant by our boy Mike. So
Rant and rave.
let's get into it. Michael, did you watch the Oscars last night?
I did indeed, yes.
And I'm assuming that's because your lovely wife Rose wanted to watch the Oscars?
Yes, Rose insisted, so I had no choice. I am duty bound to watch.
Christine, did you watch the Oscars?
I did not.
Do you usually watch the Oscars?
Well, I'm not a big Oscar fan.
So interestingly,
I do like all the dresses, though, I have to say.
Interesting. You see, now I have not watched the Oscars in years. Mm-hmm. Did just get back from L.A., though, and I was right near Hollywood, so I probably should have watched the Oscars yesterday.
Should have.
But I did not watch them. Before we get into the slap heard round the world, Michael, were you happy with the movie that won Best Picture?
I don't know the movie that won Best Picture. I haven't watched a lot of movies. This is the time of year I usually find myself saying, who are these people? And what are these movies? I haven't seen any of them. But I understand that the movie that won was the movie about the deaf family.
Yeah, called Coda.
Coda.
I believe. Yeah, the Ruby is the only hearing member of a deaf family. And I think she wants to be a singer. Is that right?
I don't know. I didn't see it.
Well,
yeah, I didn't.
This conversation.
But this is why I like the Oscars, though, because I don't particularly watch it, but then I find out all the awards, and then I have some good pictures to watch.
You can save a lot of time. Mm-hmm. You can just go see the ones that win.
Motion pictures, exactly.
That's true, but sometimes you're doing yourself a real disservice because some of those movies that are nominated suck.
Well, it's true.
I mean, they really do. The other ones that were nominated, Nightmare Alley.
Didn't see it.
With Bradley Cooper. It's a Guillermo del Toro. I actually saw this one on the plane 2 days ago. Didn't realize it was nominated for Best Picture.
Billy, do you know what type of genre that movie is?
Interesting, Michael. We're not going to trick our viewers here. We were talking about this before we came on the air, that the Nightmare Alley is what's referred to as a film noir.
It's not noir. No, it's noir. Like Pinot Noir.
I'm not hearing a difference.
What are you hearing, Christine?
Not a difference.
You're not hearing a difference there?
There's a difference.
Do you know what a film noir is, Michael?
Yes, it's very dark.
Well, here's the exact, I Googled this.
Isn't that what noir means? Black? What's the definition of noir?
Night.
I think it's French.
I believe the literal
night?
translation is night.
See, there you go. Look.
I thought it meant far. Anyway, film noir is a cinematic term used primarily to describe stylish Hollywood crime dramas, particularly those that emphasize cynical attitudes and motivations. The 1940s and 50s are generally regarded as the classic period of American film noir. Mm-hmm. 40s and 50s, Mike.
No, I was not alive back then, Bill. I wasn't born until 59.
Anyway, that was a pretty good movie. I would recommend checking out Nightmare Alley. Big fan of Bradley Cooper. Again, keeping with the Philadelphia theme of the Oscars.
Mm-hmm.
How
right?
so?
Bradley Cooper's a Philly guy, Mike.
Yeah, come on, Mike.
Mike doesn't love Philly. Mike hates Philadelphia.
That's true.
Don't get me started, man.
No. Wait till the end for that.
Anyway, there's a lot of other movies that were nominated that I have not heard of. Dune.
Dune is so good.
Belfast.
Really good.
Power of the Dog. King Richard, which Will Smith was nominated for. Did you watch King Richard, Christine?
No, it's on our list. Derek is dying to watch that.
Yeah, I would like to see that movie as well.
Talking about Derek, your wonderful husband.
I am. And he was who told me about noir.
Okay.
He likes those kinds of movies.
All right.
So we will get to Derek later because I know Mike has some things he wants to talk about.
Oh, boy.
But speaking
Don't tune in.
speaking of King Richard, Will Smith beats out a few other actors, including my man Denzel. Who doesn't love Denzel?
Denzel is the
Denzel is the man. Although I could not get through the tragedy of Macbeth. I just couldn't get through it. Did anybody watch him in that?
I'd like to see that.
I could. Go ahead, try. You try and you tell me if you get through that movie, Michael.
There is no try. There is.
I think it's black and white. I can't do it. Anyway, Will Smith wins Best Actor for portraying Venus and Serena Williams' father.
Is that their name together?
Yeah, Verena. I made that up. It's like Benifer when
Exactly.
Ben and Jennifer Lopez. So let's just get right to the slap because I want to hear Michael's opinion on it. For those of you who don't know what happened, which would be crazy if you don't know what happened, but apparently Chris Rock made a joke about alopecia, which is listen, he made a joke about Jada Pinkett Smith, but she has a medical condition called alopecia where she's
doesn't mean he made a joke about alopecia.
No, he just made a joke about her shaved head.
Okay, yeah. So he made a joke. He said that she's going to star in the next G.I. Jane movie. And we know from her social media activity, she suffers from alopecia, so she's losing her hair. Clearly, it's probably something that bothers her. Will Smith decides to come to his wife's aid, storms the stage, walks right up to Chris Rock, and just slaps him across the face in front of the entire world. Michael.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
Well, my initial thought when seeing it was staged. That was my initial reaction.
Well, they are actors.
Oh, thank you for that. and then they cut the sound. So I said, wait a minute, maybe this isn't staged. But what really got me was, I mean, if you look at the video of what happened, when Chris Rock told the joke, Will Smith initially started laughing. And then he maybe caught out of his eye that his wife was kind of upset. That's when he got up. Is that what sets him off? I mean, you talked about her social media presence, that we know about her alopecia. We also know from her social media stuff that they haven't been getting along real well lately.
Well,
there's been allegations of infidelity, and
I think it's an open marriage. Am I right? I think that they have admitted that they have an open marriage. Now, I would argue that whether their marriage is open, closed, or whatever, doesn't matter. You know, if you're going to come to the defense of your wife, it doesn't matter what your sexual relationship is or sexual agreement is. You're coming to the rescue of your wife for something that you feel was crossing the line. But before I give you my opinion, I'm curious to get a female perspective from Christine Lafferty. What did you think about what Will Smith did?
I thought it was ridiculous. I also thought it was staged. And the whole, turning off the sound didn't throw me off on the whole staging. I guarantee one of them is coming out with some kind of big movie, or Chris Rock's going to go on tour.
Oh, so you still think it's staged?
Yeah, I do. And even if it's not staged, my opinion as, I guess, a woman here on this show is that I thought it was ridiculous. First of all, Jada can stick up for herself. And second of all, there's just no need he could have just yelled, but to get up there, I'm telling you, it's staged.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm buying that it was staged, only because it's really maybe it is. Maybe it was staged. You never put anything past anybody, especially Hollywood. Mm-hmm. But it really did take a little bit away from what should be Will Smith's most crowning achievement as an actor. He's never won an Oscar before. He's been nominated before. He's never won one before. And no one's talking about that as much today. It's all about how he slapped Chris Rock. But I agree. I think it was a little bit ridiculous. And I love Will Smith. I know he's from West Philadelphia, one of the tougher towns, not like North Jersey. It's a tough town up there in Philadelphia, North Jersey. But I think he could have handled it differently. Your family is your priority. He talked about in his acceptance speech. Just like King Richard, he's there to protect his family. But you can do it without physically assaulting someone. Yep. You know, what I felt what he should have done. And look, we don't know. You mentioned him and Jada haven't been getting along. We don't know what happens behind closed doors. Maybe this alopecia diagnosis and hair loss that she is dealing with is something that is horrible for her.
No.
Well, you don't know that,
no,
Mike. What I'm saying is you don't know how she feels. So when he says that, when Chris Rock says that, Will Smith looks at his wife, maybe knowing what she's dealing with behind closed doors, and decides this was crossing the line. But what I think he should have done, he should have he could have stood up, he could have went on stage, he should have said, that's crossing the line, I need you to apologize to my wife. And Chris Rock probably would have done it at that point, but to just walk up to him and literally assault him, I mean, that's what it is. He assaulted him.
Yeah.
I know it was an open face slap and all that, but you can't condone violence in any.
Yeah, and it's like a Kanye Taylor Swift moment too. Like, you're taking away from the entire product of the Oscars, and and away from everybody else, and it's now turned into the Will Smith show. And I guess I'm not a big fan of Chris Rock. I'm really not.
Yeah.
But how he handled that was
Chris Rock is a comedian. He
True.
told a joke.
He did.
And quite honestly, it was kind of funny. And I don't buy.
Mike's about to get bitch slapped from Will Smith. Ladies and gentlemen, our next guest on the podcast, Mr. Will Smith.
I do not buy that Jada is so upset about her alopecia that she was.
What are you basing that on?
The fact that she's there sitting in the front row, all dolled up at the Oscars. If she's that upset about it, stay the hell home.
It's her husband's biggest night of his life.
Yeah,
He's about to win the Oscar. Look, what I'm saying is I don't think that anybody has the right, not even Mike, to tell someone how they should feel. If it upset her and upset him, that's completely fine. You can feel that way, and you could even say something or express your displeasure to Chris Rock. What I had the issue with was walking up there and physically assaulting him. And look, thank God he opened up his fist. He slapped him, but you could still have hurt Chris Rock. Chris Rock handled it very well, whether you like Chris Rock or not.
That's what I'm saying. He definitely did.
He took a second, got his composure, and then said
And
something.
he kept it going.
Yeah, greatest moment in television.
Yeah.
Reacted with class early.
But he did.
It was. I agree.
He did. But I'll tell you this. Now, whether or not you agreed with it or not, Jada's got to be pretty happy with her husband, don't you think? I mean, that was a pretty big deal. He went to her defense like that.
Part of the stage.
I don't know. I'm sitting here saying he kind of looked like an ass.
True.
He could have done it differently. Like, if he would have just said, "Don't talk about my wife," or what did he say? "Keep my wife's effing name out of your mouth." Like, anything. I think that she probably sat there saying, "What? Are you kidding?" I know I would have been.
It looked like he was saving face from laughing at the
Yeah,
because
he did
laughed
chuckle.
originally. Yeah.
Who does the seating assignments for these Oscars?
Why, you thought it was ironic that he's front of the stage?
It's kind of ironic.
Mike, I'm with you. I'm not sold that this is not.
He is dead center, front row.
But I think that was partially because he was nominated.
He was nominated.
Because Denzel was also near there.
He was the favorite to win the Oscar. I don't buy it. It's all staged. It's a scam.
Yeah, I still really like him though.
I like Will Smith. I as an actor, love the guy.
I do too. I like Will Smith. Yeah, I think he crossed the line, but I mean, look, Mike, you've been married for 40 years. We're going to get some of your advice for Christine
Not
later.
Yet, Billy.
Almost
not till August.
Almost 40 years.
Almost 40.
If somebody said something about Rose that you knew offended her for something that was completely out of her control, like a medical condition, I don't know if you would have smacked the guy across the face, but I guarantee you would have done something.
I'd beat the shit out of him.
Did you hear that, Rose? Mike would have beat the shit out of him. All right, but let's turn to one positive. We were talking about Denzel, the man, Denzel Washington. And not only is he a great actor, he always seems like he's just he's a smart man. You know,
Yes.
he's not smart, book smart. What's the word I'm looking for? Wise.
Worldly.
And the quote that he said to Will Smith was, "At your highest moment, be careful. That's when the devil comes for you."
Yeah, there you go.
Because last night was probably Will Smith's highest moment in his acting career. He's about to win an Academy Award for Best Actor. And instead, he smacks Chris Rock. But thankfully, did you watch Will Smith's acceptance speech? I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah.
I thought it was pretty good. He apologized. He didn't apologize to Chris Rock.
Did not.
But anyway, we'll move on because I think every single person out there is talking about this incident last night. So we got our opinion. Mike says disagrees with what Will Smith did. I want to get a vote here.
I don't disagree with what he did. I just think it was staged.
All right, Mike thinks it was staged. Lafferty, staged, you said?
I say stage. I also say I disagree.
If it wasn't staged, you disagree.
Yep.
Lance, was it staged?
No. I disagree with what he did.
All right, so we got that. And then I disagree with the physical assault. I do not think it was staged at all. I think it was way too... It was way too raw. I mean, just the way it looked. If it was staged, I think it would have been handled a little bit differently.
You've heard it here. One of them is doing something big really soon, and bad press is still press.
Yeah, but here's why I disagree.
We got to move on, but let's keep this in mind too. If it wasn't staged, if it was genuine, if it was raw, if it was real, Chris Rock would have been on his ass.
Well, if he would have punched him, he just slapped him.
Okay, he still would have been on his ass.
And we will move on, but I don't think Will Smith's already one of the biggest stars in Hollywood.
Maybe he has a deal he's helping Chris Rock. Chris Rock comes out smelling like a rose on this one. He was super cool.
Bill, do you know the documentary that Chris Rock was presenting for? Do you know who produced that?
Will Smith?
No.
Who?
Your owner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Oh, Jeffrey Lurie. He won another Academy Award. That's his third one, Jeffrey Lurie.
Yeah, and Questlove was, a big part of that. Big Philly connection.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
He's got 2 more Oscars than he has Super Bowls.
Oh, here we go with the low blow. All right, let's move on.
You guys just teed that up for him, though. Come on.
Yeah, we did tee that up for him. So this is a sad story that came out of Florida, and we're going to talk about it from a legal perspective. But sadly, a 14-year-old boy falls to his death at an amusement park in Orlando called Icon Park. This happened last Thursday, and there's video of it, and we're not going to watch that. But it was crazy because apparently prior to him falling to his death, while the ride is about to start, he turned to his friend and said, "If I don't make it, tell my family I love them," because he had a feeling that there was something off. So let's just talk about from a civil perspective. This was an extremely large 14-year-old boy who was probably too big to be going on that ride, which is possible. Yes, you could be too small to go on rides. You can also be too big to go on rides. And he had been stopped from other rides at the same park, but this particular ride operator let him on. Christine, have you ever had a case involving an amusement park where someone was hurt on a ride?
I've had a couple.
And is there civil liability on the amusement park itself?
Yes. Well, at least in New Jersey, because that's where I've handled them. Yeah,
this one is in Florida. But, normally, is it a similar type of case? You have to prove negligence. Is there anything else that usually is proven in an amusement park type of case?
I think it really depends because, of course, it's negligence, but sometimes it's a product issue. Something was wrong with the ride itself. But in this, it really does sound like just negligence on behalf of the workers there. They shouldn't have let him on.
Yeah, and, in some instances, and I think it's been reported that there was no waiver signed here, but in some instances when people go to amusement parks or go on rides or, you even go to a trampoline park with your kids or one of those bounce parks, they will ask you to sign a waiver, giving up your right to sue them if you are injured at their premises. And depending on the waiver, you may be giving up your right to sue them for negligence and other things. They're not ironclad, though, what we've seen, especially in the state of New Jersey. There are ways to get around them. But in this instance, there is no waiver. But even if there was, a lot of times the term gross negligence, can get you past that waiver where even if you're giving up your right to sue for what's called negligence, just meaning that someone did not act as a reasonable person would in that moment, gross negligence is even more. And in a case like this where the kid is clearly too big to be on the ride, was not strapped in properly, and the ride was still permitted to go forward, I think the argument could be made for gross negligence. Do you agree, Christine?
Yeah, I was thinking that, definitely. And I also think one of the biggest things that comes from that is that he was not allowed on other rides. So if you compare that ride operator to the other ride operators and ask them, what they know and what their training is, that's just going to help you, really work that up and show that this person, the person who was working for the amusement park really didn't do their job.
Let me just flip it around just a touch.
Mike is a cold-hearted bastard. Yeah. Just emphasize that first. Go ahead, Mike.
Just want to play the other side for a moment. You got a 14-year-old kid who was how big, Lance? 6'4", 300-something pounds, who's already been turned away from a number of rides because of his size. Is there any assumption of the risk here?
Potentially, Mike. Potentially, but it's not the parent's job.
Yeah, Mike, I thought you were going right against the parent.
Yeah, it's not the parent's job.
I'm talking about him and the parents.
Well, yeah, but it's not the parent's job or the 14-year-old's job to know what the size requirements are for every single ride in that amusement park. The ride operator should be trained and educated.
Agreed.
To be able to make sure that this doesn't happen. Then the same argument could be made where you bring a little kid to the amusement park and they get allowed on a ride that maybe they're too small.
You bring a little kid. You've brought your children to amusement parks.
I have.
Have you not? And when little Melina says, "Daddy, I want to go on that one," and you say, "Sure, go ahead," knowing that maybe it's not the proper ride.
No, and I don't know.
Do you stop her?
I think I'm a good parent. No, the way I handle it is, okay, let's go see if you're.
That's a whole other show.
Let's go see if you're big enough, and then we'll walk up, and you have your fingers crossed that they're going to let her on.
Yeah, you put it to the ride operators. Yeah. No, sorry.
Is she big enough?
And we know there's those, the rulers. At my 5'3" stature, I still go up to those rulers to see if I can get on. I mean, that your kid can't get on, but still.
But what's interesting in this case too is, when you file a civil lawsuit and it looks as if they've already retained a civil attorney, you're seeking damages. And a lot of times you're seeking what's called compensatory damages that will go to the wages that this young man may have earned throughout his life, all of these things to compensate them for this loss. But if in fact the conduct of the ride operator and the amusement park itself did raise to gross negligence or reckless behavior, you may also be dealing with punitive damages in this case, which is something that is rare. We have sought them in our cases before, but punitive damages are exactly what they sound like. They're meant to punish the defendant. Now, we don't do Florida. I don't know what the laws are on punitive damages in Florida. It is a tough standard to reach here in New Jersey, but if you're able to get over that threshold, this could be a substantial case. Obviously, it's a sad case involving a 14-year-old, but if they can show that this conduct was reckless or willful, punitive damages can be substantial in a case like this. And then another element of damages, not to get too legal, but we're lawyers here. The mother and the father were there, is my understanding, and they saw this happen. Mm-hmm. In New Jersey, we refer to that as a poor T claim. It's really a negligent infliction of emotional distress claim. What it says is that if you watch a close family member sustain a substantial injury or death, you also have a claim, because clearly anyone in the world, unless they are a sociopath, would understand the emotional element that would have on someone watching a family member.
For sure.
So it's the negligent infliction of emotional distress?
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Exactly. So there's a lot of elements here. There's a lot of factors to this particular case. Although it's a very sad case, from a legal perspective, it'll be very interesting to see how this plays out. But anything on that, Christine, before we move on?
No, it's awful.
It is very, very, very sad. But so, as you guys know, we're lawyers. Christine Lafferty is an excellent attorney. I'm a little biased because I get to work with her every day, but she's an excellent attorney. And in addition to doing nursing home abuse cases and medical malpractice cases, she also handles quite a few car accident cases. Mm-hmm. And I told you earlier that we wanted to talk a little bit about car insurance, because although it is boring, these car insurance companies spend millions, if not billions of dollars advertising to you. And a majority of the time, the ads you are hearing are just going to talk to you about how much money they can save you. That's all they talk about. But that is not the best way to purchase car insurance. And I know a lot of us are driving less right now with the damn gas prices where they are. But we're going to tell you why car insurance is probably not the spot to cut back on expenses. I mean, Christine, how many horror stories have you seen of someone who just purchased car insurance because that's what the adjuster told them to get, or the salesman told them to get, and it's just not enough to protect their family?
It really is. It's awful. I see it all the time. I always feel like I'm working retroactively. I've got a client who comes to me, and what a lot of them don't understand is, they say, well, can we change our policy now? Sure, I want you to change your policy now, but the policy that you had at the time of the accident or the collision dictates how you're going to be covered in that particular collision. And so, of course, yeah, you can change it, but it's not going to help you. It might help you on the next one. So it's just really sad. One of the worst things we see is our clients, and I've seen it with family members too. It's like a party trick at our parties now. They're like, can you look at my coverage? And I'm looking at all my family's coverages and shocked at how low and how they're not protecting. A lot of times I have to tell them, like, look, you're protecting the person you may hit or cause an accident to, but you're not protecting yourself. And one of the best way to protect yourself is to look at the coverage that takes care of both your medical bills and if you're hit by somebody who's not insured. So those are the two aspects that we really should be protecting yourself in. In New Jersey, you're actually allowed to have up to $250,000 in medical coverage. And I know Bill has shown this before, but the difference between the state minimum, which is $15,000, and the maximum, which is $250,000, is nothing. It's pennies. So we talk about saving, but you could just spend a couple more dollars a month and protect yourself for life, honestly, because, car accidents, we know cars are supposed to protect you, but there's so many times where, you might even have, for example, just a rear ender that doesn't seem that bad, but you could have catastrophic injuries from that. You may need a spinal surgery. And now you've decided that, you saved a couple of dollars and you've got that PIP minimum and you're not protecting yourself at all.
Yeah. And what you hear all the time, family members, clients, when you start to explain to them that they don't have enough coverage, the answer is, I got full coverage.
Yes.
But I have full coverage. So you got to understand, depending on the state that you're in, full coverage doesn't mean anything. Full coverage just means that you have enough insurance to be considered allowed to drive on the road. That could mean that you carry the state minimums and all these, which, let me tell you from firsthand, isn't enough.
No.
It's not enough. So like Christine mentioned, when she said the insurance that you have is, a lot of times you're just protecting the other people if you get hurt. That's usually what's referred to as your liability coverage. And that's important. You want to make sure that you've protected yourself if you get sued because you've caused an accident. But the two areas she's talking about is, yes, in New Jersey, the medical coverage is called personal injury protection. In other states, it may be called MedPay. Mm-hmm. Try to get as much as you possibly can so that if you need medical treatment, you can get it. And what shocks a lot of people here is it doesn't only apply to you in most states. It also applies to every single person in your household, whether they are of driving age or not. Yep. So your 4-year-old, your 5-year-old, God forbid, they're a pedestrian, they get hit by a car. Guess what? It's your car insurance company that's responsible for those medical bills. Yep. So that's important. And then the other area, like Christine said.
Yeah, before you get there, Bill, the bigger issue that I see is that the average person doesn't understand the basics of auto insurance.
Yeah.
For example, in New Jersey, as we all know, when you're in an accident, your insurance company pays your medical expenses.
Exactly.
You would be shocked how many times I've had a conversation with someone where they say, why is that?
Right.
The other guy caused the accident. I want his insurance company to pay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I want a pony. And neither one of us is getting what we
And
want
that's
because the law says
no fault.
Your insurance company.
Yeah.
We're a no-fault state.
Yeah, so look to see if you live in a no-fault state. That is usually what it means. It doesn't matter who's at fault. It's your own insurance company that's going to pay for your medical bills and your medical treatment. Very important. And then the other aspect of the damages Christine mentioned, or in coverages that Christine mentioned, was the uninsured. You also will see it as underinsured. And it's exactly what it sounds like. If the other driver is uninsured or underinsured, meaning they don't have enough coverage for the amount of injuries that you've sustained or your family members sustained, you can turn around and go after your own policy of insurance. So we always recommend trying to get as much as you can possibly afford, because insurance is there, hopefully, to never be used. But when it is, you're going to want to make sure you didn't cut corners. Yeah. So it's very important. And we're happy to, if you're in New Jersey or Pennsylvania, always feel free to reach out to us. We're lawyers. We're not insurance agents. We're not making any money off of these insurance policies, but we can quickly tell you what we recommend. So feel free to reach out to us at Grungo Colarulo. That's 30 minutes. But before we run, Christine, you've been married to our man Derek for how long now?
We just came up on our 6-month anniversary.
Oh my God.
6? Yeah, congratulations.
Oh,
Happy
thanks.
6-month anniversary. And that was a fun wedding. Michael and I
That
were
was
there.
that was a great wedding. You know, Derek's one of my best friends in the whole world.
Oh, he
Oh,
loves
that's what he
Derek.
tells you. Me and him talk a lot of shit behind your back. I'm just kidding. We love Derek, but you guys have been married 6 months. We would still consider you to be newlyweds. They're still honeymooners.
Absolutely.
Michael, on the other hand, is about to celebrate his 40th wedding anniversary in August. Another hit it, Lance.
7th. August 7th, 1982.
Oh, are you sure you're...
I think I got that right.
Yeah, and what may shock a lot of people is as mean and cold-hearted as Mike is, his wife Rose is a sweetheart.
She's a saint.
She is a saint for putting up with Mike. A saint, and she's a sweetheart. But what I wanted to know, Mike, if you could, this is going to be our segment of the show we call Mike Speaks. But today, Mike Speaks is going to talk about how to keep a happy marriage. Do you have any words of wisdom?
Shouldn't we have Rose on here?
We should.
We should. We should have. Yes, very simple. Do as you're told.
Well,
You're
is that for Derek?
Should Derek
That's
be
for
listening?
Derek.
Okay.
Yeah, that's for Derek. Just look, don't try to figure it out. Don't try to understand the workings of the female mind or why she's saying what she's saying. Just keep your head down and do as you are told.
Yes. And I would give you advice, but I'm divorced. So no advice from me.
We don't need you.
Well, thank you, Michael.
Thanks.
Is that going to work? Should we tell Derek?
I think we need to tell him to tune in immediately.
All right. So, Derek, if you're listening, just do what you're told. Mike is the man when it comes to this. Look how happy he is. If you're watching along on YouTube, actually, the video probably cut out because it was over 30 minutes, but you should see the smile on this man's face.
I would just like to take from that Mike is saying that I am always right. That is what he's saying.
Is that correct?
I'm so
Mike?
glad you can't see his face right now.
I don't think that's what I said.
What it sounded
That is what
like.
I heard.
Yeah, well, you may have heard that, but I know you think you understand what you think. You believe that you understand what you think I said, but I'm not sure that you realize that what you heard is not what I meant.
All right,
I have no idea
I have
what's
no idea what you're saying there. But what I do know is if you guys are still listening to this podcast, it means that you probably are somewhat entertained. So please do us a favor. Be sure to like, subscribe, leave us a review. It'll really help us out, and we would appreciate it. And if you have any ideas, anything you want us to talk about, any questions, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, everywhere that you have your social media, we are there. And this podcast is on every single podcast platform. So, Christine, thank you for joining us.
Thanks
I'm sure.
for having me. It was fun.
Yeah, you'll be back for sure. Lance, as always, thank you for producing. And Michael, thank you for being you.
For being you.
Thank you, Billy.
I love you, buddy.
I love you too.
And that's a wrap for episode 2 of Life and Law with Mike and Bill.